Hello, welcome to this short video where we're going to teach you how to create an automation suite using Selenium WebDriver and driven by CucumberJVM. We're going to use the Eclipse IDE to develop the automation suite, and we're going to use Maven to manage the libraries that we're going to need when creating the suite. First of all, we're going to need to install a plugin for Eclipse. It's a Maven plugin. This will allow us to interact with Maven within the Eclipse IDE. So you install plugins by going to the Help menu, selecting Install New Software, and then you would add the URL within Work With. I've already added the URL. It is http://download.eclipse.org/technology/m2e/releases. You'll then tick the Maven integration for Eclipse selection here. Select Next and follow the process through to install the plugins. Once that plugin is installed, you'll have the ability to create Maven projects. So right-click in the Project Explorer, click New, select Other, select Maven, and select the Maven project. Click Next. We want to create a simple project, and we want to skip the architect selection. We want to use the default workspace location. Click Next. Give a group ID. So ours is just going to be a Google search. We can use the same for the artifact ID. For the name, we can leave everything else as default. Click Finish. This will then create the projects within our workspace and give us a number of source directories. We're going to make use of the source main Java, source test Java, and source test resources projects. So I'm going to delete the source main resources project for now. It also creates us a default POM XML file. So this tutorial is not going to go too in depth into Maven and expects you to have a little understanding of Maven already. I'm just going to add the dependencies that we need for this tutorial in order to access the libraries for the suite. So there's 4 dependencies in total, 2 dependencies for CucumberJVM, 1 for JUnit, and 1 for Selenium. Save that. We're going to add our feature files to the source test resources directory, and we're going to add a package within there called steps, and this will hold our feature files. I'm going to go ahead and create a feature file. I'm going to call it Google search feature. And add it in here. Okay, you'll see that my feature file's nicely highlighted. The given when thens are highlighted. This also the actual feature file within the Project Explorer may probably appear different to yours. What I've done is I've added a plugin. So if you go to Help, Install New Software, the plugin I've added is Cucumber plugin. And it can be accessed from http://cucumber.github.com/cucumber-eclipse/update-site. You'll select the Cucumber Eclipse plugin and follow the process to install the plugins. We have one scenario within our feature file that will enter search time within Google and ensure that the expected results are returned. For this to work, we will need to generate step definitions, which will be called when each of these steps are executed within the test. Step definitions will be written in Java and will be used to interact with the browser and the test. Before we generate the step definitions though, we would need to tell JUnit to run Cucumber as a test, so we'll need to create some runners. So next we need to make a Cucumber runner class, and we will do that inside the source test Java directory. We'll create a new package We'll call that steps. And in there we'll create a new Java class. And we'll call that run Cucs test. And I've copied the stuff I want to put in there already. But basically, this run with tag tells JUnit to run the test as Cucumber. And we've added a Cucumber option here because we want to add a report. And the type of report we're going to add is a HTML report. And we're going to add that to the target /cucumber-html-report directory. This directory will be relative to the base directory of the project. Basically, we'll put it into this target directory here. You can save that. Once we've got a runner class, we can now generate the step definitions. This can be achieved by running the automation suite. To run the automation suite, select the POM file, right click, select run as, Maven build, within the goals, and to the text test. Click run. You can now see this generated step definitions for you, the given, when, and then. So you can copy these and you can add them to a step definition class. Call it step defs. Finish. We need to import the packages that contain the given, when, and then annotations. So in Eclipse you can do that by pressing Ctrl-Shift-O and it will automatically import the required classes. Next we need to implement the code for the given, when, then steps that will interact with the web browser and verify the expected behavior. We need to create a WebDriver object. So we'll create one, WebDriver, and we'll call it driver. If I press Ctrl-Shift-O, again, it will import the required packages for me. So we're going to create some startup methods and teardown methods that will be called before and after tests respectively. So public put up, public put, and within this method we're going to create our driver object. Ctrl-Shift-0, again it will import the classes for me. Okay, and we're going to have a teardown method. And in this one we will quit the browser. The way that we get these to run before the test and after the test is by adding before and after tags. Ctrl-Shift-O. We want the Cucumber API Java before tags. Same. Okay, so now what will happen is every time before a test runs, we'll create a Firefox WebDriver object, and after every test runs, we'll close that driver down. For this automation suite, we'll be using the page object model. I'm not going to go into too much detail about the page object model. It's outside the scope of this tutorial. But if there's a demand for more information about that, then I will create another video for that. I'm going to go ahead and create a page. So I'm going to create a package within the source main Java directory. I'm going to call this pages. And this is going to hold my page objects. I'm going to create a base page. Cool. I'm going to call that page. And from this class, all of my other classes will inherit. So I've got some code that I've pasted in already. Control-Shift-O. This will load the libraries for me. We create a WebDriver object. We've got two constructors, one the default constructor and one that takes a WebDriver as an argument, and both of them instantiate the WebDriver object. We're also going to create a Google page because we're going to be interacting with the Google page. This will extend our page object. Extends. Page will know about its location. It will also have a constructor. And this will just call constructor within the superclass. It will also have a getter method for its URL. Now that we've set up the basic structure of our page object model, we can go ahead and start implementing our step definitions. So we'll start with a given. I've got some code I've already copied. Once you've entered it, if you press Control-Shift-O again, it will import the Google page and resolve the error there, and it will leave two errors, one for navigate-to method and one for the getTitle method. This is because we're yet to implement these methods. So let's start with the navigate-to method. Let's navigate to the Google page. We can implement navigate-to method. This method calls the get method of the WebDriver object and passes in the URL we want to navigate to. In this case, it's our Google page. I'll save that. When we return to the step definition class, we should see that there's no longer an error associated with the navigate-to method. Next, we need to implement the getTitle method. We're not going to implement the getTitle method within the Google page, but rather within the page class. The reason for this is because we think the getTitle will be a common method that's used in all pages. So by implementing it in the page class, it will be accessible by all classes that inherit from the page class. So let's navigate to the page class and add the getTitle method. All this does is call the getTitle method of the WebDriver object and return that. Let's save that. When we go back to our step definition file, we can see there's no more errors. So next we want to implement the step where we enter text into the search field. So we can get rid of the default text within the method and replace this with the code I've just pasted in. You'll see that there's an error underneath the copy text. We need to change the parameter, the name of the parameter that's passed in with this method, and change this to text. Now there's an error with the method search for query. This is because we're yet to implement this method. So let's go ahead and implement this method within the Google page class. Let's navigate back to the Google page and implement the method. Once you've entered the code, Control-Shift-0 to add the required libraries. You can save this. So the first thing we do is we find the element that we want to enter the keys into. In this case, it's the input field, and I know that the ID value of that input field is this, and query is the query that is passed through to the method. After we've entered the text, we wait for a few seconds, and then we invoke submit button or the search button. In general, it's bad practice to sleep within a test. It is better to wait for elements to be displayed within a page. There's built-in wait functionality that you can use to wait for methods, but for simplicity's reasons, I'm just adding a sleep method within this tutorial. Now that we've implemented the search for method, we can return back to the step definitions class, and we can see that there's no longer an error for the page search for query method. Next, we need to implement the then step. So once we added the code we require, Control-Shift-O, pull in the page class, and it should resolve most of the errors. We've got one more error with text. and we'll change the argument that's passed in with the method to call that to text, and this should resolve all errors within the code. The text comes from an argument passed in with the step, captured in a regular expression, and then passed into the argument. I'm not going to go into too much detail about this. This is outside the scope of this tutorial. We expect after the search that the name of the title of the browser will be whatever the search time was, plus a space, dash, space, Google search. We've now got all of our steps implemented, and we're in a position where we can run our test. So let's go ahead and run the automation suite. Right click on the POM.xml file, navigate down to Run As, Maven Build. In the goal, enter test, and invoke run. You'll see some output in the console to show that it's running, and you should see a Firefox browser open. Great. It's Firefox open. Search for Selenium WebDriver, and then verify that the title is correct. Selenium WebDriver Google search. Once the test is run, if we refresh the project, we should have a HTML report added to the target cucumber-html-report directory. So if we right click on this and say open it with a web browser, you'll see it details our scenario all in green to show all steps passed. If we wanted to see the test file, we could add an S to the search results, save this, POM.xml, run. This time we can run as, we can select top Maven build and select our Google search test. Again, we should see a browser open. Search for Selenium WebDriver. And run. This time you'll see a build failure in the console. If we go to the Google search project and refresh it, and open the report, this time you'll see the error and saying it's expecting Selenium WebDrivers, but was actually Selenium WebDriver without the S. So from here you can go on and develop your automation suites backed by the power of Java. I hope you enjoyed this tutorial. Look out for more tutorials from me in the future.